Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Talk with Brian. Today we have a special class on phrasal verbs and false cognates. Now, these are two tricky subjects. Phrasal verbs are a combination of a verb and a preposition. And one of the most difficult parts of learning phrasal verbs is very rarely can you have a direct translation into Portuguese. You just have to learn the expressions. And then false cognates, of course, also known as false friends. That's when a word looks similar. The Portuguese and English words, they look almost the same, but they are not the same. They have different meanings. So let's go ahead and practice a little bit. We'll start here with phrasal verbs. We're going to read a little story, and I'll explain the different expressions, the different phrasal verbs we have. Let's go nice and easy. An imperfectly perfect day. When I set off for work this morning, my car broke down. Set off is to start, to get going. When he left his house for work, he set off. And my car broke down, that means my car stopped working somehow. When a car breaks down, you can also use it for other things like a refrigerator. Your refrigerator could break down. Let's continue. So I ended up taking the bus. So that was his final decision. He could not take the car, so his final decision was to take the bus. He rode on the bus. As soon as I got off, I bumped into an old schoolmate, Mark. Got off is to leave something, to leave a bus, to leave the car. He got off the bus. He left the bus. And to bump into, bump is physically to hit into someone. It doesn't always mean literally physically, though. He bumped into, probably he just saw his old friend, his old classmate, Mark. Schoolmate is more British English, and my English more American style English, with classmates. While we were talking, he brought up something I had already found out from some mutual friends. He brought up as he mentioned. He started to talk about something. And found out is to discover. In this case, in the past, I had already discovered something from some mutual friends, that he had come into some money and had set up his own business. Come into some money as he had surprisingly received some money, maybe from an inheritance, maybe a relative died and left him some money, and he had set up his own business. That means he organized, he created his own business. He told me that there was a lot to sort out. Sort out is to organize. There was a lot to organize for his business, and offered to take me on. That means he offered him a job. He wanted to take him on his new business, tried to give him a new job. But I turned him down straight away. I turned him down means I rejected. I said, no, thank you. Straight away, that means it was very direct, very clear. No, thank you. I don't want this job opportunity. Okay, let's continue. When I clocked in, my boss had a go at me, telling me off in front of everyone. Clocked in is the same, and we also say punched in. When you get to the work and you start, and some places you have to physically press a button that you start your time at work. The boss had a go at me. The boss was angry and was yelling at me. Telling me off. Telling me off is a strong thing to say. Is when you really tell someone directly that you are angry with them. It can be a very hard thing. When I got over the initial shock, I told her I'd make up for being late. Got over is when you got past, you recovered from the initial shock. I'd make up for being late. Make up for is to replace or to redo something. So he was late, I was late. It will make up the time, stay later maybe. But it turned out that she had blown up over a deal that had fallen through. It turned out means that it had been something else, some other information that she had gotten angry about, had blown up over, had gotten angry, it's to blown up. The deal had fallen through. That means the deal that they were hoping for, some sort of big deal, that it collapsed. It didn't have a success. After a client of mine had pulled out of a contract. Pulled out of a contract is to give up, to leave the contract. She told me that I wouldn't get away with it, that I let everybody down and just went on and on. Get away with it is to escape from the problem. Let everyone down is to disappoint everyone. You let someone down, you let people down, you disappointed them. And just went on and on as someone, or talking too much, talking all the time, went on and on. Okay, let's continue here. Eventually, I ran out of patience and answered back. Ran out of patience, it means his patience finished. He was, or I was in this case, not in the mood to listen anymore. And answered back is to respond in a strong way. And I said I was not going to put up with it anymore. And if she wanted to lay me off, she should go ahead. To put up with it is to deal with, to listen to more. And I said, I'm not going to take anymore. And she wanted to lay me off is to be fired. That's when they say, get out of you don't have this job anymore, get out of here. Go ahead is, vai em frente, go right ahead, do what you say. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I stormed out, phoned Mark's secretary, who put me through to him. Stormed out is left quickly and angry in a bad way, and who put me through. So he called the secretary, and the secretary put right to Mark. So it put me through to him. And I told Mark I'd like to take him up on his offer. It means I'd like to accept, take him up. Take up his offer is to accept his offer. And so in the end, everything has worked out perfectly. When something works out, that means everything went finished fine, finished in a good way. It all worked out. So that was some phrasal verbs. There are many others that we'll practice in future classes, but these phrasal verbs are a very common part of the language, very important to study, to know, to understand, and they can be difficult. I think the best tip is just to practice and to try listening to them, try studying, reading novels. Novels are an excellent way to learn phrasal verbs, because novels, their characters will speak in the regular conversational English, as this is. And also watching series like Friends, they use phrasal verbs all the time. So that's a great way to practice phrasal verbs. All right, let's continue now. We have a day at work. Here we have a day at work. In the morning, I attended a meeting between management and union representatives. The discussion was very comprehensive, covering topics. So, my friends, let's continue with false cognates, and we'll read a little story and see the false cognates. A day at work. In the morning, I attended a meeting between management and union representatives. Attended, no é atender. And union, no é unión. Union in this case is sindicato. The representatives of the workers is the union. The discussion was very comprehensive, covering topics like working hours, days off, retirement age, etc. Comprehensive, no é compreensivo. And this is interesting, talking about working hours, days off. There are not as many laws in the United States regarding work, regarding labor. In Brazil, you have many more protections for work and the workers' rights. In the United States, it's really more dependent on the company where the people work. Let's continue with our story. Both sides were interested in an agreement and ready to compromise. Compromise, no é compromiso. Compromise is when you are at one side and the other people are on a different side, and you meet in the middle and you make a compromise. Someone gives up something, the other gives up the other thing, and they find a way to go forward. And both are happy, but they both didn't get everything they wanted. That's a compromise. Compromiso, I believe in Portuguese, is like commitment. Tomorrow we have lunch plans. We have a commitment to meet for lunch. The secretary recorded everything in the notes. Eventually, they decided to set a new meeting to sign the final draft of the agreement. Eventually is not eventualmente. No é eventualmente. Are you liking my Portuguese? It's not the best. My English is better. Let's continue. Back at the office, a colleague of mine asked me if I had realized that the proposed agreement would be partially against the company policy not to accept workers that have already retired. Realized Noe Hielezar. And retired, Noe Hechira. Retired are the people already aposentado, finished working after a long time. I pretended to be really busy. Pretended is not pretender. I think it's fingir, isn't it? I pretended to be really busy and late for an appointment and left for the cafeteria. Actually, I didn't want to discuss the matter at that particular moment because there were some strangers in the office. Strangers is a good word to learn. We have, for example, I am from the United States and I live in Brazil. I am a foreigner. I am not a stranger. A stranger is someone you don't know. So people who don't know me, I'm a stranger to them, but it has nothing to do with being a foreigner. And then we have the word strange. Strange is a person who is a little bit different and unusual, different, and not necessarily strangers. Okay, let's continue here. Oh, and actually, we have actually. Actually is not actualmente. Actually is more like the currently here. The actually, na realidade is actually, I believe, in Portuguese. Okay, let's continue. After a lunch, I attended a lecture given by the mayor. Attended again is not attender. Mayor is prefeito, is the boss of a city, right? Someone who's elected to run the city is mayor. Some people confuse mayor with the English word major. Major can be a military title, but also major can be the most important. Like the major city in the state of New York is New York City, for example, but major is different from mayor. Mayor is prefeito, who is an expert in tax legislation and has a graduate degree in political science. He said his government intends to assist welfare programs and senior citizens, raise funds to improve college education, and build a public library. Now, a public library, of course, is the place to get books for free, sponsored by the government. It's not a bookstore. Bookstore and library are different. And establish tougher limits on vehicle emissions because he assumes this is what the people expect from the government. Okay, so there was a little story with some false cognates that'll be helpful for you, hopefully. And then we can see here, we have some examples. So we have actually, no actualmente, example. Actually, on second thought, I think he was wrong. Na verdade, pensando bem, eu acho que ele estava errado. My Portuguese, great. Library is not livraria, right? Livraria is a bookstore. We have, and then library. She must be at the library, biblioteca, right? Let's continue here. Costume. Costume. There's going to be a costume party on Saturday. Where you put on, like for Halloween, and you put on a costume like some superhero, and you wear different clothes and you pretend to be someone else. You wear a costume. And then parents, no hay parentes. Parentes is relatives, right? And parents is pais. My parents have 2 children. And you can have, for relatives, you have, I have several relatives living in Massachusetts, for example. Then we have pretend. No hay pretender. They're only pretending. Estão fingindo. They're pretending to do something. Exquisite. Exquisite is good. Esquisito is bad, but in English, exquisite is nice. My wife has exquisite taste in clothes. Minha esposa tem gosto refinido em relação a roupas. Nice. Exquisite is something very nice, very charming, beautiful. You know? Okay, and that's we'll finish there today with false cognates. We'll have other classes about more phrasal verbs and false cognates. They're interesting. They're a tricky part of the language. The best way to learn is just to study them as much as you can, to watch movies and series. Excellent way to practice. And as I said before, reading novels. Reading novels is excellent because you learn a lot of different vocabulary, a lot of practical lessons, which I recommend. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed. If you did, like and make a comment, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.